Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello Mrs. Eti and friends, my name is Delvianti Rosa, my age 20. I'm from class SMJI 14. Here I will tell a story to complete the value my English assignment with the theme of teenagers problems. Problems teenagers is a time when a person is looking for identity. In this period, teenagers will show their various abilities. However, various adolescent problems can also occur, ranging from trivial problems to serious problems that have a negative impact on mental health. Adolescent problems can occur anywhere, but in the school and family environment. However, some parents often do not know and understand the problems of today's youth. In fact, parents become figures who should be relied upon to deal with adolescent problems. This time, I will tell a story about teenagers problems from the movie I watched. Is entitled The Last Wolf. The film, directed by Upi Avianto, which premiered in 2009 for the first time, stars a series of top Indonesian actors and actresses, including Vino G. Bastian, Fatir Muchtar, Reza Pahlevi, Dion Wiyoko, Ali Syakib, Dallas Pratama, Fanny Febriana, Zaneta Georgina, and others much more. In a suburb of Jakarta, there is a group of teenage boys who grow up and form very strong friendships. They are Ale as Al-Fatir Muchtar, Jarod as Vino G. Bastian, Lukman as Dion Wiyoko, Sadat as Ali Syakib, and Jago Dallas Pratama. Ale was the most prominent figure among the five of them. His leadership spirit is very obvious. Meanwhile, Jarod is the least talkative and introverted figure. The Ale gang is famous and feared by the locals. The Ale gang has a strong position, but they will not enter the world of drugs. One day, there was a soccer match between Ale groups and rival groups. After the match, there was a fight incident. One of rival members plans to stab Ale, but Jarod managed to thwart the plan by hitting the assailant on the head with a rock, killing the assailant until Jarod is captured. Ale's group, Jarod's parents, and his young brother Yani as Zaneta Georgina and very surprised, but Ale group still goes about their routines. Fatir as Reza Pahlevi, a lonely young man with special needs, wants to be members of Ale groups, but he is rejected and humiliated by them. Returning home, Fatir saw his grandmother was dead, so that he who was alone finally left the slum. Meanwhile, in prison, Jarod often gets oppressions and tortured by other inmates. During visiting hours, he is jealous of other inmates that their families visit. Jarod misses his friends and family. After that, he fought back against other inmates who bothered him. When he got out of prison, Jarod was not picked up like other prisoners, but he met Fatir. Fatir takes Jarod to headquarters of the drug gangs, is the Black Dragon. Jarod is offered to become a member of the gang by their leader, is George Rudy, which Jarod accepts. Jarod and Fatir are assigned to protect the distribution of drugs in their slums areas. They had to deal with Ale's group. Jarod then comes back home to see his family and Aisyah as Fanny Febriana. Aisyah is none other than the sister is her friend is Ale. He expresses his love. After that, Lukman's sister died of an overdose. To take revenge, Lukman plans to kill Jarod, but he is shot by Fatir. Sadat and Jago were very angry, so they planned to rape Yani is sister Jarod. An angry Jarod avenged them both by torturing him to death. Meanwhile, in prison, Jarod often gets oppression and torture by other inmates. Ale finds out that Aisyah is in love with Jarod, so he locks Aisyah in her room. But Aisyah manages to escape and meets Jarod on the roof, asking her to stay with him, but Jarod refuses. After the meeting, Aisyah was pushed from the roof by Fatir and died instantly. Jarod considered it suicide, while Ale suspect is Jarod. Jarod calls Ale to meet him. They both fight and Ale pulls out this gun. In the midst of the chaos of the battle between Jarod and Ale, a gun sounded. It turns out that Ale was shot and died from his wounds. As Jarod walks away from Ale dead, he is shot twice by Fatir. The film closes with a scene showing Fatir as the last wolf because Fatir is the last kill and leaves the slums with the aim taking revenge of Ale's group who dumped him. Fatir is killed all Ale's group. The scene closes with Ale's sister, Isbara, as Agung Suryaputra, who takes Ale's gun, which indicated that he has taken Ale's power. Thank you, Mrs. Eti and friends. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Yuli Fitriani. Here I will tell you a film called A Small Letter to God. This novel is one of the most popular novels. The story is so touching. Besides that, there are many lessons that can be taken from his novel. Even more touching, this novel is taken from a true story and not engineering, because it was so popular. In the end, a film was made based on this Little Letter to God novel. This novel tells the story of a teenage girl's struggle against her malignant cancer, namely rhabdomyosarcoma, or soft tissue cancer. In this novel, Gita is told as a character Keke. He is an active teenager. One morning, Keke woke up from his sleep with red eyes and bloodiness. His parents took him to the doctor for a checkup. At first, Keke's parents thought that Keke was just a common cold and was tired after participating on volleyball. However, it's wrong. Keke's parents get news that Keke has a malignant cancer which is predicted to live in 5 days. The malignant cancer gnawed at his face, making it look ugly like a monster. Even in such circumstances, Keke continues to struggle and tries to stay in school like any other normal teenage girl. Keke's parents are confused in making decisions on the path of healing cancer suffered by Keke. They don't want half of Keke's face to be lost due to surgery. That's why Keke's parents kept the disease he was experiencing a secret from Keke. However, as time went on, finally Keke found out what exactly he was suffering from. Knowing this, Keke was not angry at all. He could only surrender to what was happening to him. And he always smiled at everyone he met and always seemed fine. With cancer, Keke can still be an accomplished child and live a normal life at school. God gave more opportunities by giving Keke a long breath to fight the cancer for a moment. Like with his father, namely Jody Triapianto, he also did not want to give up just like that. He kept trying so that Keke could recover from the disease. So touching, with this mediocre condition, Keke's father looked for alternative medicine and throughout Indonesia. Even though he tried again with no result. Therefore, there is no way for Keke's father to return to the medical path. According to doctors, another way that can cure Keke from cancer is chemotherapy. Then, Keke underwent chemotherapy. Once chemotherapy can knock out all the hair that is all over his body. Keke underwent the chemotherapy 25 times, and in the end, after 6 months of chemotherapy, Keke was able to recover from his malignant cancer. This cancer case experienced by Keke is the first cancer case in Indonesia and has become a big debate in the medical community, where the cancer only affects older people, not teenagers of Keke's age. God's gift is extraordinary, which allow him to live longer with his family and friends he loves. After that incident, Keke lived and enjoyed his life with gratitude for his recovery. However, in the end, the cancer turned out to be bad again after experiencing happiness for a while. The cancer was back in a different location, namely in the right temple. Keke realized that his life in this world was getting narrower. Knowing this, he was not angry with God. In fact, he was very grateful to have the opportunity to live longer than the illness he was suffering from and finally be able to breathe longer for up to 3 years. However, that was the happiness that Keke could feel for the last time. The doctor gave up on his illness. In his last breath, Keke wrote a small letter to God. After that, his breath ended on December 25, 2006. Just in time, he finished fasting and ate all Fitr, finally with his family and friends. His body is gone, but his story will be eternal and will always be remembered forever. Maybe that's all I can say. Thanks and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello guys, my name is Mutiara Cinta. Here I will read a story about teenage problem. I took it from a teenage film called Perahu Kertas. Perahu Kertas tells the story of the ups and downs of the relationship between two woman children, namely Kugi and Kenan. Kugi is a tomboyish girl, cheerful and who believes that she is an agent of the good Neptune. Kugi always has unique ritual, which is to write every outpouring of his heart onto a piece of paper, which then mixed into a boat and then float into the water. Out of first glance, she is a cheerful girl who is lonely, but she has a view of life that tends to be philosophical. Kenan, a talented young painter, was forced to study at the Faculty of Economics by his fathers, together with Kugi's best friend since childhood, Noni, and Noni's boyfriend, Eko, who is also Kenan's cousin. The four of them become a compact gang. From the initial admiration of each other, Kugi and Kenan suddenly fell in love with each other. But things got in their way. Not only that, Kugi and Noni's friendship broken when Kugi is ordered to protect his heart, did not come to Noni's birthday party, which was held at Wanda's house. Kenan finally goes to the house of Park Wayan, a painter who is Lena's old friend and Kenan's mentor in painting. In a sad mood, Kenan's creativity in painting is dead. Luz Park Wayan managed to restore Kenan's spirit. A collector who subscribes to Wayan Gallery named Remy becomes the first buyer, wanting to quickly leave Bandung and his old environment. Kugi struggled to graduate quickly. After graduating from the trial, Kugi's older brother Carol helped Kugi become an apprentice at an advertising agency called Avocado, owned by his friend Remy. Kugi's work performance is brilliant and attracts Remy's attention. Okay, friends, that's all from me. Thank you. Bye.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, let us say thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, which has given great guidance and His blessing to us, so that we can gather in this room without hindrance of any. Our salawat and greeting always deliver on our uswah, the great Prophet Muhammad, which has brought us from the dark ages to the light. All of my friends, whom I respect and find all that I love and I'm proud. Iqbal Dia Fahri Ramadan and Aldi Alvaro Maldini are two friends who are together in a band. Even so, both of them have never performed at all and lack personnel. For this reason, Aldi plans to recruit Kiki Tengku Rizky, the exemplary student council president whose term of office is about to end. In the election of the student council president Ayla Caitlin Heidelmark, who is also Iqbal's childhood friend, has ambitious to win, fielding understatement by Ayla. Iqbal also participated in running. The problem is, unlike Ayla, Iqbal is not a smart student and likes to act casually. The romance has a cute factor that is adequate without having to overdo it with percentage. The appearance of Iqbal Ramadan and Caitlin Halderman are the main case. Individually, Caitlin supports the writing of the character, raising Ayla from a ruthless, unmotivated antagonist tenor, especially when it comes to vulnerabilities, while Iqbal is the brightest star. When the older two CZR personnel were sometimes still flat, he injected high spirit so that ever scan that present him was fun to follow. Together, the two have solid chemistry seen in the sweet musical scene when Iqbal and Ayla walk together, dancing a simple dance. Unfortunately, the romance of Aldi, Tara, Gege Elisa, and Kiki Bella Agatha Chelsea is not that strong, even though a small scan when the credits roll proves that these two couples are also likable. The musically number delivered is quite entertaining by Patrick Effendi, without the extravagance and high fanfare, but operatic to present the context of the situation. The film musical scan also serves to repress the emotional outpouring of the story, keeping the feeling conveyed without being overly conquered. There is love in high school. It's never too much to convey conflict, including disputes in the school environment, which are still at a reasonable level, not overly dramatic, shallow, and ridiculous like many teen films set in high school. The series of songs might not be masterpieces, decoration with genius arrangements, but the catchy tone and light lyric as the perfect formula for a song to dominate the chart with will be enjoyed by all audience. One thing that prevents me from giving more value is the mess in the third act. Haki Ahmad Samet conclusion about how to end the pile of conflict that he had built. The heroes had to build conclusion. All the problems suddenly ended After going through a short montage, Patrick Effendi tried hard to make me the moment, making it comfortable to follow, even though the storytelling was full of holes. But fortunately, the shortcoming did not go as far as bringing down There Is Love in SMA, which still ended up as a beautiful gift for Comet, who did not forget to fulfill his duty of entertaining the general audience. That's all I can say. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. Thank you.
Nama saya Rihan, asal dari Indonesia. Kalau asal organisasi dari Muhammadiyah, Ikatan Mahasiswa Muhammadiyah.
Halo, saya Linda, 21 tahun dari organisasi Youth Forum Papua.
Namaku Said, dari Matamokosa, Kalimantan Timur. Tapi juga bagian dari Pusat Mahasiswa Indonesia.
Gue Victor Andrian Santoso, koordinator program untuk remaja Persaudaraan Korban Nafsa Indonesia. Gue 23 tahun, asli Bogor.
Saya Kanza Vina, saya 22 tahun, saya seorang transgender dan saya berasal dari Sanggar Suara DKI Jakarta.
Nama saya Erina Dias Manjorang dari wilayah Lampung, umur 22 tahun.
Ni hao ni Adil Natalino, Basuramen Kak Surga, Basing Kak di Batah Arus. Perkenalkan, nama aku Erik Putra Prianto, saat ini berusia 18 tahun dan tinggal di Kota Pontianak, tepatnya Kalimantan Barat.
Nama saya Eci, usianya 23 tahun, asalnya dari Jakarta. Aku perwakilan dari Young Voices. Jadi Young Voices adalah organisasi yang menyuarakan hak dari penyandang disabilitas.
Saya Abi Manutama dari DKI Jakarta, mewakili Young Voices Indonesia.
Nama saya Nino, saya dari Lembaga Swarna Lentera, LSL Kota Pekanbaru.
Banyak remaja-remaja yang ada di Papua yang kehilangan tentang informasi terkait kesehatan reproduksi sampai tingkat penyakit HIV dan AIDS itu meningkat sekali di Papua. Itu dari umur 15 sampai 29 itu ada pada umurnya remaja. Kalau di Papua sendiri itu belum ada layanan yang ideal, dari jam 7 sampai setengah 2, sedangkan remaja dari jam 7 sampai setengah 2 itu ada di sekolah.
Remaja itu kalau bagi saya sangat riskan, karena yang paling riskan itu memang di desa, karena di desa itu mengadopsi dari kota Madya.
Terkait dengan hak identitas dari teman-teman di DKI Jakarta sendiri, karena DKI Jakarta sendiri adalah tempat urbanisasi teman-teman waria dari berbagai daerah dan mereka kabur pada usia saat belum ada kalangan KTP, sehingga itu akan berdampak terkait dengan kartu identitas, terus akses ke banyak layanan. Saat ini juga teman-teman kesulitan karena di BPJS sekalipun harus mengharuskan untuk memiliki KTP.
Kita butuh satu pelayanan yang benar-benar bisa merangkul kita tanpa ada penghakiman itu sendiri. Bahwa salah satunya adalah menurut saya juga berhak untuk mendapatkan layanan kesehatan yang ramah dengan mereka. Mau mereka punya orientasi seksual yang berbeda, identitas gender yang berbeda, dan ekspresi yang berbeda, ya teman-teman harus mendapatkan layanan seksual itu sendiri dengan maksimal.
Dari remajanya sendiri cenderung untuk takut karena banyak kasus di beberapa daerah ketika dia melakukan wajib lapor, datanya itu dapat digunakan untuk keesokan harinya ditangkap.
Kebanyakan pemerintah memberikan program itu pada yang namanya olahraga. Tidak semua remaja hobinya bola, tidak semua remaja hobinya main basket.
Kebanyakan kalau teman-teman kita untuk mengakses layanan itu kita disamakan dengan masyarakat lainnya, dengan remaja lainnya. Padahal kenyataannya kebutuhan kita berbeda. Jadi harus ada orang yang benar-benar paham akan kebutuhan disabilitas itu, kayak pengguna kursi roda kebutuhannya apa, kursi tunanetra juga perbedaannya kan punya perbedaan yang berbeda.
Itu adalah bullying. Bullying terhadap suatu etnis tertentu seperti Tionghoa. Itu sangat-sangat menyakitkan.
Karena kekerasan seksual itu banyak orang masih menganggap tabu. Jadi kalau justru karena dia korban, justru dia tidak mau coming out, dia nggak mau keluar ngomong ke halayak ramai kalau dia adalah seorang korban. Justru banyak orang berusaha menutup-nutupi, apalagi keluarga.
Pelayanan kesehatan seksual untuk penyandang disabilitas dalam konteks pemulihan setelah pasca kejahatan seksual itu membutuhkan pemulihan yang sifatnya inklusi, karena pendekatan pemulihan psikososial antara orang secara umum dengan penyandang disabilitas itu sangat jauh berbeda.
Contohnya kita pergi ke layanan, ketika konseling yang mereka tanya justru sesuatu yang tidak ada hubungannya dengan penyakit. Contohnya petugasnya, konselornya bertanya kapan tobat.
Know your body and know your right. Jadi tahu dulu apa sih apa yang terjadi sama tubuh kamu, dan kamu juga akan tahu sama hak-hak yang akan kamu dapetin dari itu.
Jadi remaja itu adalah salah satu hal penting yang harus diperhatikan oleh pemerintah, bukan hanya sebagai objek dari pembangunan negara Indonesia, tapi juga remaja sebagai subjek yang mampu memberikan keputusan terhadap dirinya sendiri dan masa depan.